Hey everybody. So my name's John Dickinson. I'm a guitar player and I was in a band called Little Angels. We had some hit records in the 90s. And as well as that, for 25 years I've been writing masters and degree qualifications. And I was one of the founders of a group of colleges called BIM. But I left BIM in 2012. We've got a new college called Waterbear. The reason is the industry's changing super fast, and I think higher education needs to do the same, and that's what I want to talk about today. Because I've got this vantage point, because I've got this dual career in music and also education. And I want to compare the devastation that happened in the music industry that we lived through from 2000 to 2013 with what's about to happen in higher education. There's going to be a revolution in higher education. It's going to be super uncomfortable, very bumpy, and the reason is we're totally unprepared for it. And it's going to be the end of the university as we know it. So what I want to do today is explain how it could affect you, your families and your friends, and perhaps what you could do about it. Now, this is the issue. Cost of the degree going up, value of degree going down. Unsustainable. At the same time, there's been this swing in the power balance. We used to have this relationship of student and a kind of patriarchal, almost parental university, a bit subservient. And now it's gone the other way. We've got customer and service provider. It's a very different relationship. And also the thing that universities are selling, learning, has become easily available and free because we've all got the internet, we've all got phones. And I'm talking about things like TED Talks. I'm talking about subscription-based courses that cost you about 30 quid a month. Some of the content on these courses is amazing. It's bang up to date and the courses are super personalised with one-to-one feedback. I'm not talking about thousands of pounds of money. I'm talking about 30 quid a month for amazing stuff. And this is the competition for the universities now. What about YouTubers? They're giving out amazing content day in, day out for nothing. So what's the issue with this? I mean, that's good, isn't it? It's democracy. We're democratizing knowledge, and it makes university a choice. Same thing in music. I don't need a record company anymore. If I want to put a record out, I'm a DIY artist. I've got a phone. I can reach my audience. So it's an option. Same for you. As lifelong learners, a university is just an option. So again, this is a good thing. Where's the problem? The problem is nobody's told the university this. In fact, they have, but the message hasn't got through. And the consequence of not taking this seriously is that universities are persisting in selling stuff, knowledge, learning, for a lot of money. But the worst of it is, they're asking the customers to buy it and consume the learning in the least convenient way possible. When I buy something else, be it a pair of shoes or my shopping or Netflix or the services of a modern estate agent, it tends to be on demand at a time and a pace that suits me. But suddenly we package up this product called a degree, and suddenly we're asking the customer to move to a new city, pay for accommodation, and work at a timetable that suits an institution and be given a product that's one size fits all and generic. And we're expecting them to do this and bear the costs for 3 years. It's not sustainable. It's not how the world works anymore. On top of that, politicians and the establishment have created a situation where this product is very expensive. And student support is super thin on the ground. So the students that we work with tend to have to work, nearly all of them, and they're really busy. And no one in a university is adding up the totality of what's being asked of these young people, travel, moving, paying the bills, in this ridiculous timetable that works for a building and a course leader and not the actual customer. You add it all up, and what we're asking people to do is almost impossible in many cases. And young people are burnt out and fed up of it. And it's devaluing the university experience. And I think I know how this could pan out, because back to music, this is another industry that I'm in where what we were selling became free. In 1994, I had a #1 album with the band. And it was a brilliant time to be young and in the music business because the labels were manufacturing CDs for about 50p. And they were retailing in the shops for more than 15 quid back then. It was the closest thing to printing money that you could imagine. Happy days, it was amazing. And it continued like this till about 1999, when suddenly file sharing happened. And it meant that any one of us could share any amount of music with all our friends all day long. It was free, it was impossible to police, and the value of music went from high to more or less nothing. This is what happened, the graph. That graph is measured in billions. It starts off at 25 billion, goes down to 5.2 between the years 1999 and 2017. We lost 80% of our business by the end. That totals up to a loss of 216 billion pounds, not millions, billions, not pounds, dollars, US dollars globally. It's an awful lot of money. I'd like to pause and say, imagine what would happen if universities lost 80% of their revenue because the thing we're selling has become free. Imagine what would happen to research activity, which was subsidised by student loan income, student fee income. Could it be that the university in your town in a few years could be a car park, a block of flats, or a cinema? Because that is what's happening. Well, that's what happened to 90% of the major recording studios. And nobody's talking about this as a possibility. Don't know why. It might be because no one expects it to happen. But no one in the music business expected that to happen either, and it did. Now, this is the turning point. This is the turning point. This is why I wanted to speak today, because we're actually at this fork in the road right now. I'll tell you why. Talked a little bit about the currency of the degree. The degree experience being devalued for some people. Well, what about the value of the qualification? Because that still has value. That's why people still go to university. It's still good for you professionally. It's still great on your CV. We still want it. But for how long? Because unless we effectively train people for today's environment, today's workplace, that credibility won't last much longer. And the trouble is, industry is changing faster than education, much faster. We're not keeping up. Universities are not keeping up with real life, we're out of step. One of the reasons is we review and tweak a degree once a year, or worse, once every 2 or 3 years. It's not good enough. A lecture content must be reviewed the day you deliver it to make sure it's up to date. Stands to reason because things are changing so quick. And for that to be effective, the people delivering the lectures and designing the degrees have to keep their own professional practice up to date. Because you have to be in it to understand it, to teach it. We can't retire into education anymore. That's why I'm planning a tour next year and I'm putting a record out the year after that, because unless I'm active, I'm no use to creatives, to new students. And on top of that, there's an uncomfortable truth that people in education are resisting right now. They've got to face it. Our primary role is now one of content creator. The reason for that is in the real world, outside of the university, learning's taking place 24/7 on your timetables. So if you're lecturing in a classroom, that learning can't stop within the 4 walls of that classroom. We've got to create learning communities in higher education, on trains, hospitals, in the workplace, at home, in people's flats, in coffee bars, because learning needs to be set free. And when we do innovate, this is what happens. There's good practice going on, just not enough of it. There are people, I hope we're part of this, dragging higher education, kicking and screaming into the present day, and we must do it, because we did it with music, and this is what happened. 10% year-on-year growth in the last 3 years. But look at where the growth is. It's the same graph I showed you earlier. The black bit is still those declining sales. We're not selling any more CDs. It's gone. The yellow bit is where we've innovated with live music, and look, it's growing. The red bit is where we've figured out how to monetize digital music. That took some doing. It's not always popular with musicians, but the reason it's growing, it's not perfect, but it's growing because we're giving people what they want in the way that they want to consume it. And look at the growth. 10% year-on-year growth worldwide and in the UK. The pink bit is the most exciting bit for me. It shows exactly why the power has gone from the institutions. This is the DIY income. It's £1 billion and $1 billion now annually. And it's a DIY income with fan and artist, that direct relationship. We don't need the record company. Amazing. And so it will be for the universities. We're going to be driven by innovation, or at least the survivors are, the ones that wake up. And we're going to understand there's very little value in giving anyone information or data about a subject, because we've all got it already. We've got good quality data. Got too much of it. Our role in the university will be to make sense of the information and also make it relevant to the individual student. We've got to understand where the student is now and then where they want to be. So we might have to have smaller class sizes and one-to-one mentoring with professionals and students. And people say, well, that's too expensive. Well, I say a degree is expensive. We can afford to do it if we prioritise it right. And what most people want out of a degree is a transition from your study into a career or careers. And these days, there's no such thing really as a job for life, is there? Young people kind of know that. We know that. So it stands to reason we've got to get our heads around the fact that the way we learn and the way we learn to learn is much more important than the topic of the subject matter of the degree. And I'm talking about critical thinking. I'm talking about free thought and that effective analysis and independent thinking. The world needs critical thinkers now more than ever before because of fake news, online weirdness. We need people who can think for themselves, and that's always been the role of the university. We've got to get the spotlight on it and get critical thinkers in politics, education, environment, and ethics. Critical thinking changes individuals' lives and changes the world. And it's the heart and soul of higher education. And that's the future for us. We've got to put the spotlight on it. So, this revolution that I've said it's about to happen, actually, cat's out the bag. It's already happening. And I'm here to remind you that going to university is a choice, in the same way that doing a record deal is a choice for any of these artists that you've seen on the stage today. For any of these musicians, it's a tool that they may use in their journey, their lifelong journey as a career musician, to get them from A to B. A university is the same for you in your lifelong journey as a learner. It's a way of getting to A to B. It's just a tool. But these days, you need the right tool for the job. You need the right university, and you need the right degree. And in this period of change, the right degree is hard to find. Here's some questions I've put together for you to sort of give you an idea of perhaps how you could choose wisely and make that choice. You might want to ask yourself before you sign on the dotted line, how well does this university know you as an individual? Do they know where you are now and where you want to be? And have they even bothered to ask? And do they understand your life commitments? Have they told you how this degree is going to fit your lifestyle? Or are they expecting the relationship to be the other way around? And do they even care? Because I tell you what a university will care about. They'll care about those student fees. Everybody wants your student loan money. It's real money, and you will be paying it back. It's a lot of money. But you're in a buyer's market. And my question to you is, are you going to passively hand over 27,000 quid and a bit for a course that's generic, one size fits all, out of date, not fit for purpose? Are you going to accept a degree like that and pay £27,000 for it? Or are you going to take control of the future, choose wisely, and take the power back. Thank you very much.